Okay, back to business today here on the Morning Brew. By the way, we're back live. No more reruns.
No,
this is it.
This is the real thing.
It is really Monday, the 25th
yeah,
of August. Good to have you all with us today. Dan Mayfield joins us from ABQ Business First.
Morning, guys.
Cheers,
It's good to have
Dan.
you guys back live. It's nice.
Thank
Back from
you.
Hawaii.
Back from Hawaii,
was
where I
just
learned the ukulele
Ooh, nice. Nice. And the hula?
a little bit.
Okay,
Ate
awesome.
some poi. This is all in my fantasy, however.
You really didn't go.
I was driving Andreas to school every morning, wishing I was in Hawaii.
Oh man, hey, you have a big issue on with the F word.
Failure.
You teased
Failure.
everybody with
Yes.
that, didn't you?
We couldn't resist. You have so much fun with this. Well, you know, one of the things, as the city's moving forward, all these business accelerators and incubators, and all these things we've talked about before,
Right.
people, you know, there was this one group of the city that kept saying, well, that's just going to create more business failures. Why do you want to create new businesses if half of them are going to fail or a third of them are going to fail?
Right.
And the more entrepreneurs I started talking to about this, they said that is important too. And it's important because they learn when to turn the lights off, when things get bad, and really just the struggles that you get into when you do start a business, especially a high-tech business. And so I talked to a bunch of really awesome guys about this. And Vern Rayburn was one of my favorites to talk to. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of us remember Vern because he was the guy who started Eclipse Aviation and had to turn the lights off on Eclipse. The place went bankrupt. For a while, he had almost 2,000 employees. He blew through almost $2 billion making that airplane happen. And people kept saying, that's a failure, that's a failure. And now the company is back. It's making airplanes. He's not at the helm anymore, but the company survived. Right. And all of the lessons he took from building Eclipse and then shutting the lights off at Eclipse, he took to Titan. And he sold that company to Google for more than $60 million.
Yes.
And so all of that added up to another success.
Right.
And as we went forward and we started looking at these things, I found a bunch of entrepreneurs that happened to a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, people who took a failure and turned it into a success. One of my favorite stories was Ken Carson. And Ken owns what's Nexus Brewery.
Right.
And it's
nice
The
guy.
best
Great guy.
chicken and waffles in
Right?
Albuquerque.
It's amazing. And that
Lovely
came out of
place.
this. So that came out of failure, which is, I love this story.
He was in banking.
He was.
Wow.
He was in banking in Santa Fe. He ran my bank of Belen.
Uh-huh.
He was the president of that bank for 15 years, and then he came down here to work for another bank that failed. And in Ken's case, which is this great story, is that he saw all the banks go into all of these trends, which were at the time real estate or whatever else, and all of them get sucked in, and then all of them failed because they followed the trends that were really not healthy trends. And he took that and turned it into the brewery business. And then he started seeing that more and more breweries were becoming trendy. So he realized succeeding. But he realized that he needed to do something even more different. So he brought in the soul food to his restaurant and took it one step further because he didn't want to follow those trends that had killed all the banks he'd worked for. And I love that story.
Lessons learned.
Absolutely. And I thought it was a wonderful story, and I think it's a fun one. And when you think of all of us have had failures in our lives.
Sure.
We all think about things that we've done that we wish we would have done differently. But in business, you tend to be held to a higher standard, and you tend to be, you end up, when you turn the lights off, you have to lay off people. Mm-hmm. But there are positives that came out of these people, and they're some of their worst failures. And I thought it was wonderful to talk to a lot of these people about it. Even reached Ken Zangara, who ran a Zangara Dodge for years.
Yeah.
And of course, he had a pretty spectacular blow up with that company.
Yeah, it
at
was
that time.
pretty public.
It was very public. And he lost a lot of great people. But now, as being the entrepreneur he is, he went right back into business. And he's now selling supplies that go to automotive dealerships.
Right. And doing pretty well.
And doing pretty well. But it was the lessons he learned from having to turn the lights off at the dealership that brought him to his new company. And now he has more employees and he's building it back up again. And it's the cycle in business, and I think it made for it's a really fun, interesting story. And it's something a little bit different than we normally do at Business First.
Right. Yeah. You don't often talk about, you're more in business to talk about everybody's success and pictures of people doing wonderful, exciting things.
Yeah. And the other thing too is it's very hard to get a hold of people and have them talk about it.
Yeah.
That was the hard part.
It's painful.
It is. It is. But Vern was very open about it on companies he's had that succeeded, companies he has failed. Because he actually teaches failure at Pepperdine University. He teaches classes on it
No
at Pepperdine.
kidding.
Yeah.
Great.
And he had another company, a software company, that was building some of the first software for tablet computers 20 years ago.
Whoa.
Way before tablets were anything.
Yeah.
And they had this great going company. They thought they were going to be on top of it. And then he took a trip to the manufacturers in Southeast Asia. Everyone said, nope, we're not going to build these things. The battery life isn't there, whatever else isn't there. So he had to go all the way back and tell his board of directors that had given him $200 million. We don't have a company. And I
That's
can't,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, can you imagine having to have that conversation with venture capitalists
Oh
and give
my
you $200
goodness.
million?
That's a bad day.
It's a bad day. But he learned from that if you're going to build something like software, you also have to have the computers. And so when he went in to start Eclipse, he didn't want to just build the avionics, he wanted to build the whole airplane. And he didn't want to get hurt by suppliers.
Yeah.
And I think all of these things make for really fascinating stories.
And have you noticed that every time you fail, your fear of failure becomes smaller and
That's
smaller?
it.
I mean, you just
Good
have
point,
to,
Amber.
It's
you
because
have
you
to
learn more.
persevere. And your brain our brains are designed to problem solve.
Yes.
And when we're faced with failure, our brains instantly go into, okay, action. How do we fix this? What do we do next? What's our next? Once you get over that heartbreak, the emotional,
Well, you
piece of
learn
it.
so much more from it. And well, I'm not going to make those mistakes. I'm going to make new mistakes.
you're not afraid of it anymore. Just get over it. Get
Indeed.
your first failure out of the way.
That's it.
Because you
That's
will
it.
succeed.
That's it.
And I've read an article about failing faster.
There is some
Yeah.
people who have that attitude too, and that's
Let's
one
fail,
of the.
get it going and see where the trapdoors are.
That's it, and that's one of the keys behind the new ABQ ID accelerator. Is don't just get out there and make your business. If it's gonna fail, turn the lights off today and restart it tomorrow in a new way.
Yeah.
Don't just
Don't
let it
prolong
Don't
the
prolong it. Don't try to
controlled
fight
crash.
it. Exactly.
Just crash.
Just crash. Let it happen, and don't worry about it, and move on. And I love that.
Let's talk about a successful local business, Dion's,
I love
the pizza
this.
guys.
Yeah.
Great local story, by the way. They got some big funding. What's
They did.
that about?
$10 million.
Whoa.
With the Dion's. It's great. And so the story is that about a year and a half ago, they decided they wanted to expand. They wanted to grow the business. They're at 19 stores now, and they realized they wanted to get to 30 stores in the next 5 years.
Really?
But being a small local chain, they don't have the $10 million laying around. So they actually went to Wall Street, did a Reg D filing, which is a thing that a lot of businesses do it, but not usually restaurants, and not usually restaurants here, especially here. As far as we could tell, it's the first time any restaurant has ever done anything on this scale locally. And it was great. I sat down with Mark, one of the CEO of Dion's. He's been there for 25 years himself. And he told me about how they had to find the right partners and the right people. And because if you just go in and say, I'm going to get some investors, you trade them equity, you trade them debt, and you end up basically married to somebody you don't want to be married to. So these guys spent 18 months trying to find the exact right partners, and in this story, he talks through the whole process of how you find somebody that you're going to be working with for the next 10, 15 years.
Whoa.
And how that, in his case, they needed somebody they had restaurant experience, they knew that it was a slow growth thing, that wasn't going to be you weren't going to have the next Snapchat overnight, the next WhatsApp overnight.
Right.
It was investors who were looking for good, controlled growth. And it's a great, wonderful story about a local company that is just slowly but surely growing. And they're going to be putting new Dion's restaurants in Texas, Arizona, and Colorado.
Great.
So much fun. And I have a bunch of friends in Denver that are thrilled to
But
hear
when are
that.
they coming to downtown?
That was my question, and he says that they're looking at all kinds of locations. He wouldn't commit to a
Good.
downtown location yet, but how awesome would it be to have a Dion's
need one
downtown?
down
Wouldn't that be
Right.
great?
I mean, we eat at Dion's at least once a week.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure
great.
most people from Albuquerque, most of the kids are raised on Dion's.
Oh yeah, pretty
you know.
much.
Oh yeah, and I think every high school kid in town has worked at Dion's at one point.
Exactly.
Yeah, they've done a great job providing jobs for young people.
Absolutely.
You go in there and they're always bright and helpful, and
Yeah.
food's good too.
Always
No doubt.
consistent.
No doubt. I
That's-
always get the sandwiches. I'm the guy who gets the sub sandwiches at Dion's rather than the pizza. I love them. They're
Yeah,
great.
they are good.
But to talk to the CEO about how, that with that business model, I mean, most people don't think big like Dion's is thinking right now. They really want to be a regional chain, and this $10 million in funding will help them get there. And
No doubt about it.
And 5 years from now, when they close this deal, who knows what will be the next step? Maybe there'll be 25 or 30 million, and they'll open up another 20 stores. Who knows? but they're certainly trying to grow and certainly trying to be big. And when they're partners in this funding deal, were the guys who helped Red Robin grow.
I see.
So that's a great
This
partner.
is all good news.
It is.
Yeah. So
You know, as we get into September, everybody kind of refocuses on business. Summer's
Yes.
kind of over, and so it'll be fun to see what's going forward with Albuquerque Business First the next few months.
we've got a lot on tap, a whole bunch on
good.
tap. And I think the downtown revitalization is going to be something we're all over. for the
Ongoing
next several
story.
months. Absolutely.
Always good to see you, Dan.
Good to see you guys.
Great to see you.
Yes.
Miss you.
Yes.
Pleasure. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you guys.
Dan Mayfield, everybody, from Albuquerque Business First. The latest issue is out. Check it out. Morning Brew continues in just a second.